Wondering if Harald Sigurdsson is any good? Our alliance members have expertise this commander, so we took him for a spin, leading rallies, trying to take down the toughest garrisons in the game, and honestly, the results were astonishing. Harald might just not be very good. Stick around for a very detailed review of how Harald performs in a rally capacity. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming. Today we're getting a look at an expertise Harald, testing his ability to rally effectively in the Ark of Osiris and hopefully learn whether or not it will work in KVK as well. If you like Rise of Kingdoms guides that help you get value and smash your enemies, consider smashing that subscribe button for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos and testing. In this video, we are showcasing our testing in an Ark of Osiris practice match to figure out whether or not Harald is any good. You're watching Alexander the Great primary with Harald secondary, which, by the way, is one of the only combos that seem to win in one-on-one combat in open field combat. We reviewed that in our last live stream, card up in the top. If you missed it, you can check that out at the end of the video. You see here a Wu Zetian Theodora absolutely shredding the Alexander the Great Harald. We'll get a look at the report in just a second, and yeah, it's not good. 223,000 sevs for the Alex Harald, only 140,000 for the Wu Zetian Theodora. Everything is expertise. We've leveled the playing field, all the buffs and everything. It's like same on both sides. So here you see the reverse combo. We put Harald in front of the Alexander the Great and attempt to hit the Wu Zetian with Theodora secondary. It goes very poorly. And this is, I think, in large part because, look, Wu Zetian is designed to counter skill damage. So yeah, Harald does lots of skill damage, Wu Zetian counters it, and the counter is super real. Not only because of her talents, but also because of her skills. And honestly, it is completely savage. Every time he's using skills, he's increasing the defense potentially of the Wu Zetian. Not a good situation. So this goes very poorly, and honestly, this combo is very counterable. So if we get a look at this report, we're looking at 242,000 for the Harald combo, 133,000 for the Wu Zetian. You would not want to rally with that in KVK. Now, there is a flaw to this testing that I want to call your attention to as we fire up yet another combo here. You saw a Hannibal Barca at first there. That was just a visual glitch. It was a YSS and Theodora the whole time here. So the thing I want to call your attention to is that Harald is getting sort of stronger and stronger over time, with his third skill increasing his attack by 75% and reducing his defense by 75%. And that makes his fourth skill, which makes him immune to those defense reductions, a lot better in a longer fight. So it could be that the third skill is so crucial, and that interaction of the third and fourth skill is so crucial that unless you're reinforcing these rallies, it 100% doesn't reflect a real situation, which might be the case. I mean, this is going to be a next step for us that we need to go and test, is whether or not that is true. So here you see Alexander the Great primary, Harald secondary in this rally against the YSS Theodora, a classic combo that dominated our season 5 of Kingdom versus Kingdom, and it's definitely doing better against this combo than the previous combo, which just to me means you wouldn't use a YSS Theo, you'd use a Wu Theo to deal with the Alexander the Great and Harald pairing. So we look at the report, 213 to 164. I mean, this is fine, but honestly still very unimpressive. You don't want to be rallying with that, and we may be looking at very much a garrison meta. On the topic of garrison, if you want to go all in on the counter here, oh my gosh, Artemisia with Wu Zetian absolutely savaging Alexander the Great with Harald. Again, this is an expertise everything. Everything you see on the board is expertise here. The stats are all the same. There's no equipment on anybody. So it's all perfectly leveled. Kind of nutty how this goes. Kind of nutty how one-sided this ultimately is, and I'm sure you've noticed the footage is sped up at 2x for these rallies so that you can get through them pretty quickly, and we can show you everything as it unfolds. It's fun to watch that axe fly, if only it actually was effective. So here we go, rally taken down, 258 for the attacker and 121 for the defender. I mean, totally nutty. Now, one thing we wanted to explore is how swarmable this rally is. So we, in this attempt, had one player with 4 marches try to swarm down the rally and just see how it would go. And again, this isn't like it's an unreinforced rally. It's an unreinforced garrison. This is not what a real combat would look like. But I'll just point out that those attackers got punished. So I don't know how swarmable a Herald is going to be. I really do think you don't want to touch him. He's gaining more counterattack, which is kind of insane. He is doing AoE damage, and his skill damage goes up when you swarm him. I don't think you even counter rally a Herald. I think you just let the darn thing run and let your garrison with a Wu Zetian just win, because it doesn't need any help. It's just going to win. So now we've got our Herald doing some work here with a Charles Martel secondary. We wanted to try out this combo and see how it would perform. And honestly, not all that impressive is going to be the outcome here. So we've got the Wu Zetian Theodora, which was the best garrison combo that we stumbled across, although I'm sure you could test more and find some other things. And it completely savages the Herald with the expertised Charles Martel secondary. I mean, it's just very, very astonishingly one-sided how this report works out. And we'll get a look at those numbers in just a second. Now, of course, I want to call your attention to the fact that we're only testing like the Alex and a little bit of Charles Martel and the Herald. I'd like to see a Guan tested here. 237 for the offense, 136 for the defense. I mean, you do not want to rally with this in KVK. So I do think that we'd like to go and test with a Guan. We'll definitely go and do that with another player in our alliance who has both Guan and Herald expertise. Reza, who volunteered to do this testing, does not actually have the Guan expertise yet. And this combo I thought would be kind of interesting. The Herald E-Song with full infantry. I mean, look, Herald is doing a ton of skill damage, and you see it on the screen. Like, his axe is firing off constantly, like all the time. It's kind of ridiculous. But the 1,200 damage factor is honestly not cutting it. It's really not cutting it here. And even with the boosted skill damage from the E-Song and the extra rage gen, we're really not seeing what we need to see to think that this is a viable combo. And again, maybe in a prolonged fight, the calculus is different, but in a short fight, it goes very poorly. 268 for the attacker and 161 for the defender. That's a Wu Theo in the garrison. Not the situation you want to be in with the rally combos. I mean, Attila Takeda performs better in pretty much all these situations. Now, looking in at yet another attempt here, we've got a Wu YSS in the garrison. So a slightly different garrison setup here. We've got Alexander the Great and also the Herald secondary, a combo we've been using throughout this video. And, you know, look, I've looked at the builds. Maybe I'll flash them up on the screen. I think you could make a few optimizations to the build that Reza's using for these rallies, but nothing that would explain the absolutely astonishing gap in these results. Herald is not performing well in a rally capacity, in my estimation. And I guess there's an element of, well, you can't swarm him. I'm really eager to see how he's going to perform in Ark of Osiris League this weekend when people take him for a spin. 244, or rather 224, for the attacker and 133 for the defender. I mean, it's almost 2-for-1 levels of ridiculousness. Not quite, but like, these ratios are not amazing. Okay, let's make our way back to the commander screen and get a quick look at why it is that we think that these results were not as spectacular as we would have liked. You can see here the interaction I was talking about between the 3rd and 4th skill of Herald. He gets a bunch of attack and loses a bunch of defense, but the last skill makes it so that he's immune to defense reduction, so that negative effect of this 3rd skill is completely negated for some amount of time, and he just has boatloads of attack. That is not very well emulated in this mode, because the rally, yeah, he's gonna accumulate, you know, this 15 requisite stacks over the course of the rally, but these are short-running rallies. In KVK, you have long-running rallies, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, not 2-minute rallies. These are very short. So maybe it's not representative because we're having a short-run rally and he needs a long-run rally to perform. But for those of you who are playing Ark of Osiris League this weekend, or Ark of Osiris in general, yeah, you're not going to be endlessly reinforcing rallies. If you have a couple reinforcements in a rally, you're pretty lucky. You're just trying to swarm something down, and this did not perform well in that way at all. He was difficult to swarm, but I didn't find him to be all that impressive in a rally capacity. I will add to that the garrisons we were running really countered Alexander the Great. His fourth skill is very critical, making it so that the garrison is going to take 30% increased damage. In fact, a bunch of targets will. But Theodora is going to clear that debuff, and this is a long debuff. It's 4 seconds. Theodora has a very high likelihood of clearing some amount of that debuff, especially since Alexander the Great performed best as the primary, and Theodora is typically used as the secondary. The timing of those skills is honestly very tragic for Alex, and she even clears the healing effect reduction, so the Wu Zetian healing is doing some work. Speaking of Wu Zetian, my gosh, is this commander just built to destroy, I mean obliterate, and fully counter the Herald. What's going on here? We look at this last skill. It makes it so that you take 15% less skill damage, and there's a 50% chance that you get 20 defense every time you're taking skill damage. Ridiculous. She's got a chance to silence the target as well. That is on the third skill. Chance to silence the target. Well, Herald can't use his skills if he's silenced. This is a big deal. If you look at her talents, you use her as a primary. You reduce the skill damage over here. You reduce the skill damage over there. You go over here, and every time you take skill damage, there's a 50% chance that you get an additional 15% skill damage taken reduction. I mean, like, there are just a lot of ways for Wu Zetian to deal with what's happening with the Herald, and that puts Herald in a really tough spot for rallies. Now, it could be we've just got the wrong pair, okay? It could be that what you really need is a Guan, and I would believe it, right? Like, you put a coin on here, you get the benefit of the 15% extra active skill damage. Presumably, the fourth skill triggers of Herald count as active skill damage. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But it could be that this Guan combo is really the jam, and the fact that both of them do ridiculous amounts of skill damage is key, and you have to have equipment to pull this off. I don't know, but that's something we definitely are going to go and test and see if we think it's going to perform better. But these initial results, I mean, they were not even close to what we would expect to see, where we're having a choice between, gosh, is it this or that? I mean, when we were deciding in the previous KVK around, hey, like, which combo is better, I mean, it's like the difference between the garrison and the rally should be in the realm of like 30,000 sevs. That's what we were observing when we were testing things with like Chandragupta, like 30,000 sevs is some pretty, that would be good enough, right? That's what we'd expect. And here we're losing by like hundreds of thousands, which that's so bad. That's so bad for a short rally. Oh my gosh. And if it's just as bad for a long rally, which I imagine it's not that far off, this is not good. And I've mentioned this before, but the builds that Reza were using were good enough. Like, you might have a slightly better or more optimized build than what Reza was using, but it is not going to make up that difference in a meaningful way from what we saw in these crazy Herald reports. So I don't know. Leave a comment down below with what this might mean for Herald and what combos you think we should go and test and make videos about, because I'm happy to do it. I think that it is entirely possible that by the time I am in my KVK rallying stuff, that we'll actually have new Archer commanders that we'll be working with that have like just come into the game. So I'm not too worried about showing some rally results in Ark of Osiris testing. So if there's stuff you want to see, really do let me know down below in the comments, and we'll get a peek and see if we can find a way to break this commander in a good way. I will say swarming him was really punishing. You can't swarm him. But the problem with that is that he needs to be able to win on his own. Okay, it's great that you can't swarm him, but then the enemy's just not going to swarm him. And the rally just loses to the garrison on its own. You don't have to swarm him. Just let him lose. Yeah, that's bad. So consider subscribing to find out what happens next and the testing that we do. If you're thinking about investing in this commander, I would say continue to hold until we've done more testing. But the initial results I've seen here and other places are that, like, look, he's pretty cool in the open field, and the AoE is going to be really sweet, and he's going to be a real deterrent for people like hitting his march. I mean, like, gosh, Herald with a Richard, like, that could be very fun in the open field. I like what you could do with that. But rally-wise, so far, I'm not seeing it. And for me personally, if he's not usable in rallies, he's probably not a commander I'm going to put another sculpture into. Yeah, I'll spin his wheel and we'll power him up a bit that way, but otherwise, man, for me these days, it's all about rally leaders and garrison captains. Until next time, my friends, you have fun smashing the kingdom.